As I mentioned, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the New Mexico Innovation Summit, John Williams. John Williams is Director of Innovation and Technology for the Office of Investment and Innovation within the U.S. Small Business Administration. John's primary responsibility is to serve as Senior Principal for the federal policy implementation and programmatic oversight of the SBIR and STTR programs across all of the participating agencies. Prior to joining the SBA in December of 2014, John served as the Director of the Navy SBIR and STTR programs. While at the Navy, he conceptualized the Transition Assistance Program, or TAP, an 11-month program to educate and assist Navy Phase 2 awardees in the technology transition process. Commercialization of technologies developed under the SBIR and STTR program was a major focus of his work. Through his leadership, the Navy led the way in supporting the acquisition and transition of SBIR and STTR seeded technologies, awarding more Phase 3 contracts than the rest of the DoD combined. John's given our keynote address, which will help set the tone for today's event. John, thank you for joining us today. And now the floor is yours.
All right, Dylan, just so I make sure I stay on time while we're stopping at 9:50, right? I think that's correct, no problem.
9:45.
9:45, all right.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. And thanks everyone. Dell's doing a great job there. I just bounced from one presentation to another presentation. We're all getting better at this as we go along. I am sorry that you're going to see my eyes looking to the left because I'm going to use my slides, and so will not be looking directly at the screen. So with that, I really just want to kind of give an overview of the program, some of the things that I've learned through my 20+ years working with SBIR companies. It's something I really, truly love. Actually, probably almost 30 years. And one of the reasons I came to SBA was to do much more at that. Oh, whoa, I got the wrong, oh, that's a problem. I have the wrong presentation. All right, let's fix that real quick. You're not interested in that one. This is a little bit better. That one was how we take money from the, collect money from the SBIRs to all the comptrollers, which boring in our group. But anyway, America's Seed Fund, largest source of early stage capital in the free world that is investing in small business. And so, you know, what we want to start about is why was the program set up? And without a doubt, it's really to help those startups develop and transform their high-tech, high-risk, early stage ideas into marketable products and services. That's what the program's all about. It works well to do that. And so, part of it is, okay, well, that's great. We're going to walk you through how do you access the program. And it is a lot of different agencies. It's run different ways. And so it can be challenging. I mean, the beauty is, and I know we have people from all over the country, but Arrowhead, the New Mexico group, does an amazing job providing assistance. And so often, the federal government can tell you about the great program. We make sure that the money is available, but it really helps to have local people help you walk through this program, especially first timers, and even ones that have won a little bit to really help commercialize that technology transition to be successful in Phase 2s. So kind of what does it fund? It really funds everything. You'll see areas in energy and biomedical and artificial intelligence and data and all the things that are hot topics. So when people, kind of want to know what does it fund, it really does fund anything. If you're working in the R&D space, program is going to have a topic where you can submit to, an agency where you can submit to. So that's the important thing, and we'll walk through a little bit how to best find those opportunities, because I've got some tricks that I recommend and I think might help you out. So what does my office do? So we no longer provide any resources funding directly to the small businesses. So again, most of my career was running the Department of Navy's SBIR program, where I was the one overseeing the budget of close to $400 million and working directly with the firms, and I really enjoyed that. But now what we do is provide really the training, the oversight, and working with organizations that are SBIR ecosystem groups, FAST, growth accelerators, which again, the New Mexico group is the FAST awardee. And so those are the folks that can help you. They're often tied to universities. They work with different entities across the state that can provide those other sources you need. So our goal is to provide training, provide funding to help those out there, and then also develop training that they can use, and which we have on our website, which I'll kind of touch on quickly. So I'm going to hit it really quick. I mean, it's a big program. There's two programs. I won't get into too much, but quickly, but SBIR and STTR. Congress established STTR second, and the goal of that was to more take basic research from universities. So it requires a partnership, a subcontract to a nonprofit research institution, a little bit smaller. So we're still dealing with about $4 billion a year. And so that's what's available under the program. And I kind of break it out where those dollars go. So we kind of talked about why, and really is to help startups have that early capital, that early investment to prove an idea and to get it into a prototype or a place where you can actually show that it works. And so other investors will come and add the other different resources. And so we are funding things that are in either areas or earlier than typical investors would put money into. And our goal is we want to fund that in an area that addresses the agency's needs. So, you know, HHS, NIH is going to be funding things in the medical research area. Department of Navy would be looking for things that are going to benefit Navy platforms, Department of Energy and energy. But sometimes it's not that straightforward. So USDA having better broadband helps rural areas grow. And if a rural area is strong, that helps agriculture. So it's not as straightforward as what you would think sometimes. And so that's why it's really important to kind of take a step back and not pigeonhole agencies, and then just kind of look at what they have been funded in the past and see if those opportunities are existing. So, you know, they're to stimulate innovation, they're to help new companies, and really we're trying to bring in, and what we focus a lot on is get money to those that don't typically get R&D dollars. So, you know, trying to move away from places where the big investors are, the venture capital lives, trying to get more women involved, trying to get more minorities involved. That is a big goal of what SBA does, but also the agencies, and they're measured on that. And so that's an important thing, is really increase that participation with groups that don't typically get access to other sources of funding. And what we wanted to be able to do is put that SBIR dollars in place, and so you can develop those ideas and then have an easier time to getting access to other dollars. So this just shows all the agencies. The blue means they just have an SBIR. The green means they have both. How big is it? Again, you know, talking about $4 billion. This is kind of how it, well, not kind of, this is how it breaks out across those agencies. But just because an agency has a small budget doesn't mean, you know, that's not one to look on if they're working in the space that makes sense for you. So we talk about 3 phases in the program. We'll put out topics. Well, you'll see, you know, solicitations, basically the place where we're saying these are the things, these are the buckets that we want you to apply in. You'll submit a proposal, it'll be evaluated, and you get an award. And a phase 1 award will lead to a phase 2 if successful. And then the non-SBIR money that's used is phase 3. And there's some unique advantages of phase 3 that we'll touch on. So really the best things about SBIR is that, you know, under typical government funding, they would have and promote the information that was developed by your company to others because it was taxpayer money, and so they're going to promote that information. With SBIR, that information is protected, and you as the firm, the federal government's not allowed to release that information for up to 20 years. So you might not even really need a patent because it is protected, and so it's up to you as the company to release that information in the way you see fit. So protects the IP data rights, which is very unique. Obviously, it's not like getting an investor because there's no dilution of capital. So we're not taking an equity stake. And so it's really important at that earlier stage when that is that is not the time where you want to get early investment when you haven't matured the technology, and so you can properly validate the value of that technology. And so non-diluted, you own the IP, so you can partner later and you haven't diluted. And then this thing, and especially the agencies that do contracts, so, the DoD and NASA, they're looking to buy the technology they develop. And under SBIR, it allows the agency to go directly to that company that won a phase 1 or phase 2 and say, hey, we're interested in that. We want to go and build 20 of those components that you can deliver, and we don't have to recompete that. In fact, we're not supposed to recompete that as the agency. So that's a big plus for the government side, but also for you as a company. And so, people often ask, okay, so what's an SBIR company look like? What are the requirements? Has to be U.S. owned and operated, has to be under 500 people. Work should be done in the U.S. Almost all the work is done in the U.S. There's sometimes the ability to bring in work from overseas if it's helping the U.S. gain a foothold. But this is U.S. owned and operated companies, work done in the U.S. And it's focusing on our R&D. We're not purchasing equipment. It's not for technology that's been matured and just to scale it up a little bit, address the manufacturing issues, helping you commercialize. This is really more on taking that basic research and developing it into a product and services. So it's that R&D side. So I think there's always challenges, and we'll walk through some of these. How do you find the right opportunities? There's a bunch of registrations. We are the government. We like to make it hard on people. That is just the reality of doing work with the federal government. There's certain federal requirements, SAMs, DUNS, all these kind of acronyms that you will have to go in and register under. But again, there are groups out there that can help walk you through those things. And so it's important to find partners. You're always trying to figure out, if I do this with the SBIR money, who then would want the technology? Where would it go? Who's going to pay the next investment? And that's important to know at the time you're submitting to phase 1, because that's what those groups that are making those selections want to see. They want to see R&D that's developed that goes somewhere, that's not just advancing R&D for R&D's sake. So I quickly kind of touched on that there are contracting agencies and there are granting agencies, and really the way you approach them is going to be different, especially in looking for topics. So a contracting agency is going to have a very specific need that will be well defined in their topic approach. They'll kind of say, this is sometimes, again, in my experience at Navy, this is the platform we would use it on. It's going to be an algorithm that will fit into this sensor to provide better knowledge and help me merge a variety of pictures into sources so I can track things quicker, faster. So it's usually going to tell you what they want, the need. It won't tell you how to do it. And so you'll see highly focused, but that side then wants that technology to use that technology into something many times that they will actually buy, but with others, EPA, DOT, maybe they won't buy it, but someone out there, it would be bought to help the environment or roads and transportation and things like that. Granting agencies, the beauty of that side is those are ideas that are initiated by the individual as far as this is the area I'm going to address. And they're very broad. And so NSF is an easy one to point to. They have, I think it's like 12 program managers that have wide areas, and then lots of different technologies fits under there. So it might be cyber, materials, manufacturing. And then depending on what type of work you're doing, you would apply within that topic. Sometimes they have subtopics, but again, it's a broad area. But they want to say, okay, this is the general area. What are you going to do to commercialize that technology, develop that basic research to move it forward? So it is always important to look at that and know. So granting agency, typically the topics don't change much year to year. Contracting agency, they do. Not for all, but for the DoD, 100%. They change very much because it's looking for a specific thing that it won't be looking for the next time. So, I mentioned STTR and SBIR. Really, the difference more falls on that you are required to have that nonprofit research institution. Often that's a university, but it can be a lab and some other federal groups. And some agencies have some nuance. It's earlier stage, but many don't. And many SBIRs do coordinate or even have direct subcontracts with universities because, again, they just spun out of those schools. So there's usually a tie to all that. And so I'm going to kind of start moving quicker here. So where do we go from here? How do you kind of get more information? How do you find the right agencies? How do you know if SBIR even funds the kind of things you're doing. Are you too early, too late, stage-wise, and things like that? And so I always kind of recommend, let's go to SBIR.gov and let's look up companies from the past. But also, as you see in this screen, I mean, you're going to have to go into this as the entrepreneur. You'll have to register. We've got training tools and things like that. So this is our top page of our SBIR.gov website. So what I wanted to do is on that screen, you would have seen along the top, there's a report section. And under that, you can look at award data. I always recommend never start by looking to see if there's a topic for you, because you don't know if an agency just closed those topics and they only come out once a year and you just happen to miss the date. So it will look like there's nothing there when actually that agency comes out with a topic every year in that time and you're just missing it. So really, let's start with, let's see who's funding what. Again, a very general area I put in there for batteries, and you'll see there's over 3,000 awards that have been made that are in the battery area. And this actually shows you the most recent one that's been uploaded to our SBIR.gov system. So it's a Department of Energy project. It's a phase 1, and it explains what it is. Now, on the left, you'll see Department of Agriculture has done and has 12 awards that they made on batteries. So does Department of Commerce. Again, may not be that, Energy and DOD are probably all the ones that do batteries. There are going to be a number of agencies that will have work. So you can sort by those agencies. So as you get smarter and say, wow, the 3 agencies I want to go after that really are working in this space are Army, DOE, and another. And so then I can start to sort and see what they've actually funded by just those groups by tagging some of the sides and look at just those awards, how recent they are. And it'll also tell you what organization sometimes within that agency is doing that work. So then you can start to better understand what is their focus, what are their priorities. Always important to really learn about the agency and understand what they do before you just jump into it. And then some will have an opportunity to talk to them once those topics come out. So you'll see that, okay, they're in my space. Next thing is to say, okay, do they have solicitations and when? And so you'll see, like with NSF, pretty far down at the bottom, they always almost have an open solicitation. So they have 4 solicitations that open and close throughout the year. But there are some organizations, DOE, that's just twice, so you want to make sure you admit it. And others, Ed, it's just once a year. So you need to be prepped and know that when they come out, look for their topics and be ready for it so you can apply and start to follow up. So I think, now these are the agencies I want to focus on. These are when those solicitations come out. I've looked at past topics and things like that, so I have some ideas on it. And then you can look at future topics. Currently open topics. Our list of future topics, I'll be honest, on SBIR.gov is really poor because, again, the agencies don't really release that until almost the topic opens. So you can look at closed topics and look at what they've done in the past, but this is also the future ones. And so you'll see this. I didn't do a keyword search on this one. It's just what's showing up is currently open. I forget whether this is, I think this is an older slide. So yeah, it is. But it's giving you the date, release date of when those topics opened, and then when they're due. And sometimes they're due in multiple times, but it gives you that information. At that point, usually you're going to want to start to go to that agency's website to get better information from that agency and really see and read their solicitation. They're painful, they're long, but it's always important to start to really understand what that agency is looking for and their rules. So, for instance, the Department of Energy requires you to submit a letter of intent for that topic area. I think it's 7 weeks prior to when the solicitation closes. So if you kind of found out 6 weeks early, you may not be able to apply to a DOE project. So always important to, I think, especially for newer companies, to kind of narrow down on a couple agencies, learn the rules of that agency, which will be laid out in the solicitation. Work with a local person if you can, because they can also provide some insight. So again, lots of companies that have done insanely successful. These companies, I've worked with some of them at their early stages. I didn't invest in them, unfortunately, but these companies got their start with SBIR. So there's big companies, that's great. But also, there's a lot of companies, thousands of them, that are 30 to 200 people that a bulk of their R&D, 20-30% of their R&D funding comes from SBIR, which then they're allowed to leverage to win follow-on work in other areas. It provides that technical expertise. They stay under the 500 people, and they are very successful companies. So there's all types of companies that do really well with SBIR. As I mentioned, there are a lot of resources out there on our website. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see this tool right here, which provides access. And so it's a little cumbersome, but you can pull up a state, you can see, and again, a focus area. If there's a FAST in your state, those groups are paid by SBA, by my group, to work with SBIR companies. And in all those scenarios, they're also leveraging additional dollars that came from the state. So they're kind of a lead in that state to work and support tech entrepreneurs. So these are different than the SBA resources of that are there to help Main Street companies, restaurants, and things like that. These groups are really focused on the tech entrepreneur, the pre-revenue person. And so that's a great place to look to see if that exists. And if so, take advantage of it. And others have good training that you may not have to be close, but they are offering training that you can get via the internet and things like that. So that's another source. But I strongly recommend going here and take advantage of that. And then, as I mentioned, we put up a lot of information on our website, that are tutorials that can help individual companies walk through and get some of the basic training. Again, where do I find the appropriate topic? Understanding with data rights and all those things. And so there's 55 different courses that we provide, which we do in a combination of a PowerPoint and a video and things like that to allow folks to learn the way they like to learn. And then I think, I'm getting close there. So the last slide here is just, this is how to find more about us. We have a newsletter. I strongly recommend that you go to sbir.gov and you get signed up for that newsletter, because it'll talk about program and a lot of the things that exist, news feeds and things like that. But this is how you get in contact with us. So with that, I think I am right a minute over. I'm sorry. And so with that, I will end my conversation. Appreciate it. Wish you all the best of luck. Really can't say enough for the team that's putting on this event, and we appreciate them letting in people from all over the country. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, John. We appreciate you being able to take time out to give those really great kind of keynote remarks there. Everybody, we're about to turn over to our first panel session today. But just wanted to remind everybody that, the U.S. Small Business Administration serves as the coordinating agency for the SBIR and STTR programs, as John mentioned. And, these programs really are the largest source of non-dilutive funding available to kind of move you forward, get you down the commercialization pipeline, help you create an innovative product. We're actually going to talk about how some of those aspects get people together and start moving right in our next panel session, which will be starting in just one moment as we switch over. So stay tuned.